Hi, my name is Mary, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you the Unpopular Opinions book tag. So this tag is intended for the booktuber to share kind of whatever they like or don't like that is kind of out of step of the mainstream of what is popular and considered kind of normal on BookTube. I think this is fun. I think this is a tag that is not intended to be as aggressive as I think some people think it is, because obviously my opinions are my own, and if you disagree, that is absolutely wonderful, because if we all liked the same books, that would be quite boring, no? So I was not tagged to do this, but because it is becoming very busy for me here in my first semester of university at this graduate school, I would like to make a couple of these kind of more fun videos before I am able to share an update on what I have been reading. So let's get right into the questions. The first question is, what popular book or series do you not love? And for me, the immediate answer is Circe by Madeline Miller. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, Circe is an enormously popular book which follows Circe, the titular character, who is a minor character from the Odyssey. So in the course of the Odyssey, we follow our hero Odysseus, who is trying to come back from war, but keeps getting sidetracked or stopped from his progress. So in that situation, Circe is a powerful witch. She turns some of Odysseus' men into pigs, and then she represents a kind of lap of luxury that he finds it difficult to escape from. She is like the ultimate in creature comfort because her villa and her island is so beautiful and wonderful and full of food and full of all sorts of lovely sensual pleasures. So that's what she represents in the Odyssey. In Circe's Madeline Miller, she decides to take Circe and create a full character out of her. She gives her a much more fleshed out backstory as the daughter of Helios, and then she writes her how she is a outcast in the court of Helios, and then how her siblings are always much more preferred and much more loved than she is, and then how she turns into this powerful witch. In concept, absolutely okay with the idea. Absolutely fine. I don't like retellings that much myself personally. They're just not my thing, but as far as it goes, I think that's pretty reasonable. However, my beef with it comes with people marketing it as a feminist retelling, which I strongly disagree with. I don't think it's feminist to take a story in which there is no sexual assault, nothing that triggers a woman to becoming evil and powerful. To have that be a rape is, to me, absolutely unacceptable in the year of our Lord. When was this published? 2018, I think, 2017 maybe? I think that is regressive. I do not think it is progressive to say that a woman got her powers because she was sexually assaulted. Furthermore, I don't think it's feminist that the main character is the most boring person in the plot. When it comes to Circe by Madeline Miller, like, her siblings are powerful necromancers. They ride dragons. Even her sister has a kind of, like, powerful sensuality to her. She plays court politics, and she's a bit of a bully, but Circe deserves it, IMO. Anyway, sorry, that was a little mean. Circe herself is a wet dish rag. She whines and complains all the time, and then, of course, as I just said, she only becomes powerful and badass when she's been sexually assaulted. Hate it. I think I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars when I first read it. I thought that the only thing that rescued it was the writing. I do think Madeline Miller's writing is quite beautiful, but absolutely popular, beloved book series, cannot stand it. Absolutely hate that thing. So the next question is kind of the opposite. It asks, what unpopular book or series do you love? And for me, this is kind of complicated because I can't think of a book or series that everyone else hates that I love. Seemingly I have very popular taste in that regard. However, when it comes to books that I don't see talked about on BookTube, I would think that Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel would definitely be up there. The thing is that I'm fully aware that part of this is because Wolf Hall is a little bit older, and even the sequel to that, Bring Up the Bodies, came out a couple of years ago before I joined BookTube. So maybe it's just because it's not current that I don't see people talking about it. However, maybe more people will talk about it when the 3rd book in the trilogy comes out next year. I am so excited for it. I am so excited for the next one, because I love this series. I do think that Tudor England as a kind of concept in historical fiction is extremely overdone. I do think it is one of the most popular. I would say it's up there with World War II as kind of the, when are we going to set our historical fiction novel? We'll do World War II or we'll do Tudor England, especially the court of Henry VIII. So, in that regard, I do think that it stands out far above beyond anything else I've ever read on the subject. My key quality that I look for in historical fiction is not 100% historical accuracy, because I do think that sometimes for the purpose of a story you need to condense the actual facts or change them a little bit or present them differently. That's fine by me. I don't care. I think that if I wanted to read something that was 100% accurate, I would read nonfiction. However, what I do look for is characters that act and sound like people from the time period. That is the quality that I think is what I look for in historical fiction that is most often missed out on, and I think Hilary Mantel's Cromwell is the best that I could possibly imagine in that field. I think far and away he is the character that is unsympathetic because of who he is as a person, but sympathetic because of his role. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I think he feels and sounds like somebody from the period, and I wish more people would talk about it. Maybe I'll make another video when the third book comes out, and I'll talk about the series as a whole. Number 3 asks, what is a love triangle with the wrong end game? So a love triangle where the person ended up with the wrong person. My unpopular opinion is that I hate love triangles and I don't like reading about romance in books. It is not interesting to me, even in the slightest, and so I don't have an opinion. I think all love triangles are bad. Number 4 asks, what is a popular genre that you hardly reach for? So my first answer would definitely be YA, young adult fiction. I don't personally connect with teenagers anymore. I just turned 25 years old. I am a little bit too old to be reading about teenagers making out and saving the world. To me, it doesn't resonate with me. And I know you can fully be an adult and appreciate YA, and that is perfectly fine, and I'm not going to judge anyone else for doing it. But for me personally, I'm pretty much done with the genre. I don't think I will be picking up any more of it. The next question asks, who is a popular character that you don't care for? Now, apart from Circe, I will say that I want to talk about A Man Called Uwe by Fredrik Backman. Now, this is a book that I read earlier this year, in which a man named Uwe is kind of a grumpy old man, and the blurb calls him lovably grumpy. Well, and so he's at the end of his life, and he's struggling emotionally with it. However, he does this by lashing out at other people to a disgusting, at least in my opinion, degree. So he shouts at people who work in stores. So if you have ever worked in customer service of any kind or in retail, you have met this man. He physically assaults people who disagree with him or who are trying to just live their lives. Like, there's a clown that asks him for a coin so that it can do a coin trick for some children that Uwe is babysitting, and he socks the clown for giving him back the wrong coin. Same denomination, just not the coin that Uwe had given him, because, you're doing a magic trick. Anyway, so he's supposed to be redeemed because his neighbors, teach him the power of love and friendship or whatever, but I don't think that man can possibly be redeemed. And so, Uwe is not my favorite. However, if you have read A Man Called Uwe and you liked the way that his story carried out, if you felt that he was redeemed, comment down below. I would be interested to hear your thoughts on how you feel he was redeemed and what you found redeemable about him. Alright, so the next question asks, who is an author that you just cannot get into, a popular author? And the answer to that for me is Jane Austen. So I have read 3 different Jane Austen novels. I have read Pride and Prejudice, I have read Sense and Sensibility, and I have read Northanger Abbey. So of those 3, I did not like any of them. So I do not care for Jane Austen, which is kind of unfortunate because I think about trying to read more women in classics, and I know that Jane Austen is extremely popular, but there is something about her content or her style that does not resonate with me. I think that the particular era that she is writing in is so interesting with the kind of the political aspects of it, and the especially international politics of that era is so interesting that having to regress down into this tiny sphere, I find frustrating and boring, and I don't think she is as funny as people say she is. So, take that as you will. Jane Austen is not for me. I think I've given her a fair shot. I know people will always recommend their particular favorite Jane Austen novel and say, just read this one, it'll be good, but I think 3 books is enough for you to say that that particular author is not for you. The next question asks, what is a popular book trope that you are tired of seeing? For me, I would say a blank slate main character. For those of you that are unaware, the purpose of having a main character, who is really bland, is for the reader to project onto the character so that they can feel more involved in the story. However, because I don't, generally speaking, do that, I don't really try to project myself into stories when I read them. I find it frustrating when a main character, is the most boring person in the plot. It's just like if I'm reading a novel, and I would prefer it to be at the most interesting moment in the characters' lives. I don't want to be reading about the kind of boring stuff that happened before or after. I want to get to the meat of the story. I feel that way with the character, too. I don't want to be saddled with this kind of blank slate for me to project onto. I want a fully developed character that I can like or dislike, but at least they're a fully realized human being. This is a really popular trope in things like the romance genre, which I kind of understand, because the purpose of that is for you to, like, project and then fall in love with the main character, and that's how you know it's good. But for every other genre, like, make a character that makes sense, please. Oh my goodness. The next question asks, what is a popular book or series that you will never pick up? And the answer to that for me is probably Outlander. Outlander is an enormously popular book series. It's kind of a romance, kind of a historical fiction, kind of adventure book, in which a woman travels back to Scotland in the past. The thing is that I lived in Scotland for a couple of years, and I was kind of known as someone who was very interested in Scotland history, and so a lot of people recommended this book to me, but reading the plot synopsis, I realized that this was not a book that I was going to be very interested in, primarily because I don't care for time travel plots. That's another trope that I am not very big on. I don't think that they are the most interesting plot device for me to read, so I think Outlander is a book series that I'm probably just going to have to let pass me by. The last question asks, what is a movie adaptation that is better than the book? And here's another example for you from my classics reading recently. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne is a 19th century classic adventure novel that is not as swashbuckling as I wanted it to be. So I had seen the movie while I was a child and found it scary and interesting, and I watched it more recently and I thought that it was, like, adventuresome. It was as swashbuckling as I wanted the book to be. The book is kind of written almost in like a diary form, kind of retrospectively by one of the characters, and it, in the grand scheme of telling to showing, it is all telling and no showing, and so it's not as fun as I wanted it to be. And so watching the movie again, I think they did a great job of adapting kind of the concept of the book, but really turning it into an adventure story, and that is my opinion. I don't watch a lot of movies, so I haven't seen a lot of book-to-movie adaptations. There are some that I might try to watch coming up soon for another project, but just generally speaking, that is the one that comes to mind. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I will be linking, if I can find it, the original video down in the comments below, and if you would like to do this, please do tag me in it. Make sure you comment down below and say that you've done this after watching this video, because I would love to see other people's unpopular opinions. If I have an unpopular opinion that you disagree with, share it down in the comments below. I know things get a little contentious with people's favorite books, but as long as we're being civil, I think that it should be a fun kind of discussion to get. Thank you very much for watching. Bye!